Hello, 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 and welcome to another broadcast. Let me go ahead and just stop this from continuing. In the startup today, I was thrown another technical hurdle. I had to go and knock it out. My normal browser, which is Opera, and I've been using Opera for 10 years. It is probably the number 3 browser in the world, something like that. And there's a lot of reasons why I use Opera. But for today, YouTube refused to allow me to log into it. Kept sending me to help things and looking through. No, that doesn't help anything. Anyway, so I had to use another browser. And so I've got to now run with 2 browsers to keep in sync with everything that I'm doing. So that being said, welcome. This is another one of our broadcasts about bringing abundance to the world. And I've been working with Stephen Rowe, also known as DANK. And we started with a series, GCR, The Big Lie. So if you are involved in the GCR, I suggest you go back and look at the videos that we did from about a month ago. Did about 15 or so straight videos every day talking about why the GCR is a big lie, and really set the motion for the things that we're doing right now. And Tui from Fiji came in to represent the Rowe Confederacy, and how Kim from the Manna World Holding Trust is part of the ZA Confederacy, or the Raza confederacies, linked up in providing the basis of a building block for the new abundance-based world. So where all the assets from the trust will be brought back into the hands of people and governments. And of course, now the governments are the ones that are having problems accepting it because it's not coming from the cabal banking system. They were in charge. They did have access, and now they don't. They haven't had access since 2012. All the assets of the world were finished moving in by 2007, and I think there's a couple of dates like that. So first, now I have several articles that we're going to go over to kind of give a glimpse as to where we are with things. I'll allow when Tank gets here to get on and give the update. But some of the things are already posted on projectspeak.net, and I highly suggest you go there and sign up for the blog. Put your email address in so you get notifications. Though there was no notification today from this particular blog post, but anyway, we're going to go ahead and cover that. And this is basically and what it's about is really looking in at Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, which for the last 6 months or so, from Thomas Williams show, Truth, Honor, Integrity show. Please subscribe to that channel as well. He's been talking about Steve Mnuchin, and he was fired previously and so on. But now it looks like there are signs that Mnuchin will be pushed out. It's basically the revealing in the public view of certain things. And so we'll cover that at this time. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And this is the one to start with, I think. Here. There we go. Now this is labeled April 8th, 2019, Systematic Purge. So these are just some screenshots. Secret Service Director to step down on the heels of Nelson's resignation. Steve Mnuchin did some more corruption. Mnuchin losing 2 senior Treasury aides. And Homeland Security Secretary Kristen Nielsen leaving Trump administration. So I want you to know that it was Kim who said she believed in humanity against all others. She's the one working to prove that in multiple dimensions. Tank. Now, as reported, Steve Mnuchin has been removed as Secretary of the Treasury, but we're only seeing glimpses of that now, and his corruption is slowly being pointed out, and his corrupt staff is stepping down. We also report that Manna World Holding Trust has come to terms with the Secret Service 3 weeks ago. Part of their job was being to protect the U.S. dollar against, again, evidence of them not doing their job is evident as Department of Homeland Security, DHS, is being restructured, and the head of Secret Service has stepped down as well. Okay. So that's all in the first part of that. Now there is other articles on here that you should go back through. There's not all that many. If you go back, it'll take you a few hours to go through all of the blog messages. So I suggest you do that if you want to get a good handle on things. Oh, I see. Oh, the history of banking and Asian perspective. On this particular one, I actually did a 2-part video, about 45 minutes a piece, that literally goes through a presentation of that. And so I would suggest that you go ahead and watch those 2 videos. You'll find them on my YouTube channel. So let's go looking at a couple more things since we're talking about this. And I just did a quick search on Steve Mnuchin. And I also looked only in the past week. So what came up was ex-White House ethics chief says Steve Mnuchin should be fired for allegations. Okay. There's another one. Mnuchin skirted ethics rules as he worked on China deal that a company could aid his wife's company. Right? And then Mnuchin's Hollywood ties dog him. His wife is still trying to make it in the movies. So, you know, you can do your own research on this to see that there is issues with Steve Mnuchin right now just coming up. So Steve Mnuchin should be fired. Allegedly, he broke conflict of interest rules with his wife, former White House ethics chief says. Right? So we've got a lot here. They're basically pointing this stuff out. Here's Huffington Post. You know, the Office of Government Ethics refused to certify Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin's 2018 financial disclosure statement over a sleight of hand arrangement involving his stake in a film production company. In 2017, he transferred his holdings and Storm Chaser Partners to its founder, Louis Linton, and then gained them back when he married a month later. Interesting. That is some sleight of hand. That's a little bit more than sleight of hand. So you can see that the heat is now being turned up. Again, you know, this is all from this week, right? Any alerts? This is, you know, actually from the 8th, and today is the 9th for me, 8th for everyone else. So this is all just now. So the heat is being turned up right now. So you can see that there is you know, information that's coming out right now that's going to make this this New York Times. You know, so if in the New York Times, now you're really in trouble, right? The paper of record. And Mnuchin losing 2 senior Treasury aides. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin is about to lose 2 of his most trusted aides, just as House Democrats ramp up pressure on his department to release President Donald Trump's tax returns, of which the Treasury Department has no say in that whatsoever. So this is really just showing you that there is signs that he's gone, right? Now, of course, you know, we're hearing from Kim saying that he's gone, or Tank saying that he's gone. I'll ask Tank when he gets on whether that's coming from him or from Kim. So, I wonder, did everyone see where I was on? No, I don't think so. I see. See. I'm sorry, I was presenting the information. It looks like it's stuck on one page. So I'm sorry about that. I went through a bunch of pages, and of course it's locked onto one. So let me go ahead and stop this sharing and let's try this again. So let me go ahead and line up something here. Let's see if I can now redo this again. Share screen, application, delete this one, share. Okay. Well, I'm sorry about that, but I'll go through this again because I think it is kind of important to show this. So this is, again, on the projectspeak.net. So Secret Service, director to step down on the heels of the Nielsen resignation, right? Steve Mnuchin did some more corruption, and two Mnuchin Treasury aides are stepping down, and Homeland Security, Kristen Nielsen leaving Trump's administration. So I did read this, so I'm not going to go through all of this again, but I just want to show you that this is on the Speak project. So I read it out loud, but I just want to show you the pages. And again, this is what I did a search on just this week. And these are the articles that were coming up right at the top. Newsweek, Huffington Post, Los Angeles Magazine, and actually these articles I was posting here. Yeah, this is the Newsweek one. This is the Huffington Post. And it's Mutants Hollywood Ties. So this was on the Los Angeles Magazine. And here's the New York Times. And then Mnuchin losing his on Politico. So, so that's what you missed. So we can see that what has been happening as we're coming from Thomas's show and from what Tank has been telling us is that Mnuchin is on his way out. We said actually it was out already and he keeps being put back in place. But when you have the press lining up against you, you cite your target, that's giving you the reason to be removed, right? So this is where this is lining up for. You know that he is now a dead man walking. And there's not going to be much more we're going to have to do to watch what's happening with him in these times of having him blocking what's going on. So there were other things that were said about his inappropriate actions and video that was presented to his wife, and so these things are also there. But what we do know is that he's not going to be there. Now, if he's been one of the ones that's been responsible for removing, stopping the money from moving back in or paying the 2% fees to the trust, for the administration fees that they're supposed to get for downloading funds, for whatever the reason he's able to stop those things. Maybe now that he's out. No, that's what Tank's saying. He's actually gone, but publicly he's just looks like he's being ushered out. I guess you just don't step down. What's the question then, right? So they're laying out the political cover for him, to why he's gone, right? So when people say, "Oh, that's why he had to step down," as opposed to what's really going on behind the scenes. So, as I said, this was going to be something that was going to be laid out all this time in the past. So now I don't know if you're hearing what I'm hearing. I'm hearing a cat that's let's say having a bad day or a good day, depending on which way you want to look at it. So anyway, so. When these things are moving, right, and they're happening, it's kind of hard to glimpse behind the scenes. So you have to kind of look and say, well, what's been happening with, what say I heard mostly from Thomas Williams is that Steve Mnuchin was fired. Steve Mnuchin was fired and rehired, I think twice before this. and due to be done again, and even coming to where Stephen Mnuchin went in with the NSA and got to the terminal in Trump's office to do some things. So all these things that are happening are again to put the cabal back in and fund them. So now you can see that this is the behind the scenes things that have been going on. So what does this mean for us is that if we now see that publicly he's gone, maybe he's gone already and things can proceed right now. That's what I would hope. But time will tell. We just have to be patient about it. On one hand, I mean, I don't want to be patient. I'm ready to go. But on the other hand, we don't. There's nothing much we can do other than come together and talk about these other issues, like what's been going on in Hawaii. I've had more conversations, happening today with people who've been talking with people in Hawaii. We had some connections made with other people in this alternative world of banking, on what was behind everything, the collateral accounts. We have there's a whole swatch of different, I don't want to use the word gurus, but figureheads that have been there, from Benjamin Fulford, Karen Hudes, Neil Keenan, Swiss Indo, Nasara, Jassara, avenues. So we have this whole background of different information that's been put out there by different individuals. And the one goal everyone has is to bring forward to the hands of the people the wealth, so that we can go out and do things with it, because it's been removed from our hands. We got to the point where we're on our hamster wheels, right? Going to the job, paying the bills, keeping the things rolling, and to the point where there's less and less fuel to keep things rolling, and you're doing your best to keep it going, but you're not able to really do it. So one of the things we have to look at it in this greater world of abundance roads that we want to go on. There was dragon families, benevolent Chinese elders, people talking about aliens and galactic councils and all of these things out there. Again, all of it for one reason: to bring the wealth into the hands of the people. So, but we also know that there are a lot of false roads. People that have, people behind, not the people in the foreground that we're seeing and talking with that are making a public presence, but it's the people behind that may have some secret agenda, some greed program that is there to get people to follow this line over this way, right? What is the greed program over here that's going to get people, to fall in love? Now, coming out and saying the GCR was a big lie, because it's so obvious that it is. At a certain point, if they don't have access to funds, it makes sense. If they had a plan in place to go ahead and roll the world over, but all these things that have come up against it, Trump being elected, QAnon going out there and waking up the populations of the world, the Manna World Holding Trust funding the U.S. government for a year. When you have these things happening, all of the old stuff is there. And it's trying to be on its hamster wheel, right? They're trying to execute their programs, all of them. And I'm sure, most of the people, 99% of the people in these groups in every different direction, have the best intention wanting to bring about the best things for the world. But if under the idea of the GCR and what was there, it does look as though that was the big lie, that there was a hidden agenda. It was the one thing that was this is from the very beginning is, well, it's really, we're talking UN, IMF, all involved in orchestrating this. And are these the good guys or the bad guys? Looks to me like they're been the bad guys all along. They haven't solved any world poverty problem with all the money thrown at it, right? Where's all the money? It's in the hands of the elite. It hasn't stopped wars. In fact, there's wars, more and more wars, and now they're just organized into giant bureaucracies that present a show to everyone on the TV, on the videos, and on the top with the talking heads that say this. This is what the reality is, and it's really just to lead everyone down a road of there's a reason why there's a war going on. There's another war. All right, and we just kind of just keep going on. When is this going to stop? And it's always keeps going. So we realize that we need to stop. We really need to not continue on with these programs. So anyway, I want to say that we have seen behind the curtain on a lot of fronts, and those people out there that are participating, that have been in this game and wants to have the best intentions, and you're in these particular GCR groups, or if you're in any of the groups that are trying to come into just be focused on the one thing, not that any particular group is the correct group, but what the goal is, and basically say what is going to get there, what is going to make it happen. If Manna World Holding Trust is now funding projects, that's a very good place to look to get forward, go forward. We don't need to worry about all the past stuff. If you've got Dinar or Zim hanging out, I thought of taking some of the Zim I have and torching it in front of the video, but I thought it would upset too many people.
I agree, by the way. That would upset a lot of people.
That would have upset a lot of people. So, save it for posterity. If it turns out as I think, and Hank has been on this page, and Thomas and Kim is that this is a big lie. Keep it for posterity, and the reason, I'm sure there'll be reasons why people are going to want to have it as a collector's item in the time of abundance in the future. Looking back look at what the cabal was doing, the big deception, the big lie. We've heard about Project Moonbeam. You're going to talk about a big lie. They're going to project holographic spaceships in the air around the world, right? And say, we're being invaded. It's a real program. Yes, this is not a made-up fantasy. This is a real military program that was designed to deceive the whole world into going to war against the aliens. If the aliens wanted to go to war with us, in the way that we see in the movies, with ships firing lasers, photon torpedoes, whatever, we would have been done a long time ago. Instead, the war that's being fought is what we've agreed to, and what we keep agreeing to is to have someone come and help us, be a parent to us, to be dominant over us. Invitation, which is the cosmic rule out there, right? We're agreeing to it. And even if you don't want to agree that there is aliens out there, that's fine. Just look at what our agreement is. We agree to sign over our children by signing a birth certificate, right? as parents, we have to sign it. Well, actually, the mother, I believe, signs the birth certificate. And that creates an entity and then turns it over to the state. Is that taking responsibility? No. So it's a deception because we don't know those things when we're there with our newborn and so happy about it, and we're presented a piece of paper, just bureaucracy, right? We're in a hospital and they're there to make you sign papers, and here's the vaccinations for your kids. Let's not get started on that one. Yeah. So anyway, well, welcome, Tank. How are you?
Man, I was enjoying you. I like when you're fired up like this. Sounds good.
Yeah, I started on the road of Mnuchin and everyone else resigning from Trump's administration just as signs to show, he's already gone. Mnuchin is gone, but they're showing signs of the reason to get rid of him because they don't want the real reason to get rid of him to be known. Right? So that's why you'll see it in the New York Times. He's a bad guy. Look, why are they pointing him out? Right? Why do they want to give him an ethics violation? Right? Get out of here because no, it's more than that. There's a video and whatever else was going on there with him and his wife and younger people. That is a reason why he should be gone. But really, it's because he's stopping the money flow from happening. He's not paying the admin fee, the 2% admin fee, when when the trust funded the government for all of last year.
Yep, that's correct.
Anyway, that's what I started with. So.
Whew, all right, I like it. Well, in that vein, to support you, because I definitely like when you're fired up like this. I think it's important. These are not passive things. These are things that we have our whole heart invested into. And to be quite honest, if you're not mad at some point, there's something wrong with you. These things should make you mad. I will say this. I wanted to just share what Kim did say to me earlier because, I was kind of waiting for an expansive, an explanation as to, what happened after she said, I want a little more clarity on what it meant that she capitalized the banks. And
what did that mean?
Yeah, so what that means is that she provided the banks with a capital loan. Okay. Now, the reason why she gave them a capital loan is 4 reasons she gave me. It's necessary for the banks to receive large deposits. Okay. So they, by receiving the capital loan, then in turn, when we put these larger deposits in to go fund projects, they can receive them. It was actually a request from President Trump. So it's never a bad idea to do a favor for the Trump or for the president. I mean, when they ask, right?
The Trump.
For the Trump, right? And now, because of that, Kim has influence with the banks so that they will help us. Now, that's ideally, right? But keep in mind that money, she brought the money all the way down to the teller level. So imagine you're in a bank, right? And you're there and they can see your account, but you can't, right? And that person right there is looking at your account and they can actually see that you have an absurd amount of money in your account. And it doesn't make sense. So the teller freaks out and says, we need to send this to compliance. There's something wrong, right? Because there is $100 million in your account and you've never had more than $2,000 in your account, right? Something like that. So that's kind of what.
What's wrong with that?
You know what? Nothing's wrong with that. Nothing. That's the reality. That's what they've trained people to think, though, right? They get scared and they're afraid they're going to get scammed, right? And then now here's the other thing. This is really more important. Not more important, but this is more urgent. Is that without those capital loans, the whole country would have crashed because the wires for regular deposits and regular deposits for regular checks were not clearing, right? So your $500 a week check from your grandmother wasn't clearing. Paychecks weren't clearing. there's no liquidity. Because there was no liquidity, they couldn't clear checks. So Kim had to capitalize the banks, because if she didn't, there's nothing there. But to that point, the reason why that's obvious to them now is because she exposed them for, you don't have any liquidity. What are you going to do? Right. So that's why. So she made them reliant on her, because they always were, but they had this illusion. So because she broke down all the illusions, then they realized, if we don't have any money, what are we going to do? So the whole country, it would have been 100 times worse, by the way, 100 times worse than the Great Depression. It would have been abject poverty on a unfathomable level. We would have turned into a third world country, worse than anyone can imagine overnight. It would have been riots in the street. So I think that's really important to understand why she did that. So now, um, leading up to that conversation, this is one of the challenges. Is I know that Kim has got the weight of the world on her shoulders, right? And and I was really looking for clarity on this, because I was trying to understand. I was kind of like, Kim, it feels like we just funded the enemy, right? We funded the treasury and the banks. Like, what's going on? And then they still blocked us, right? They still took our transfers and put them into compliance. And and she pointed out to me, it's no less than 20 messages on average per day, of people just hitting up Kim, who are saying, did you make any progress? Are we there yet? It's over and over and over and over again. So, being someone who deals with a barrage of those kind of messages, I can tell you that it is very, very difficult when you're working nonstop and trying to fix things and change things. Meanwhile, um, you know, people are still hitting you up because they want results too, which is understandable, by the way. And when you're when you step back from it, you're like, don't snap at people. So sometimes it's a gift not to answer people, so that you don't snap at them, because it's just very stressful, right? Because this is a really big nonstop task, right? And now I will say this though, and I wrote it because I wanted it on the record. Um, and I think it's really, really, really important for everyone to go to the speakproject.net, and the some of these articles that or some of the issues that Dan is referring to. I just took some screenshots of those articles, right? Because I use the
I did
Speak
show
Project.
them. I
Oh,
showed
okay.
the big project page. I went through your blog post. I read it out loud.
Oh, okay, good. So the 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 key that I keep thinking about is, it is really Kim who's the one who stood up for everybody. I mean, I know that people got the nerve out there to badmouth her, and part of the reason why I'm so adamant about, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And anybody out there saying, "Oh, she's volatile, she's hard to work with," every person who says that is because they wanted her to compromise our freedom. They wanted her to, sell out.
Good.
And
She's hard to work with then.
right, yeah. Yeah, and I'd say, you know what, you're right. If your agenda is to enslave humanity, but you want to do it behind the guise of, because, but it's okay with you because you're going to be in charge. She is hard to work with,
Yeah.
and you are a jerk, right? Like, you can go do your own thing. So all
Yay
those
for
people.
Kim. Yeah. Be unreasonable then.
So I can't emphasize enough. I mean, how much she really is a modern day superhero for all of us. And I'll tell you, she wouldn't even like me to say that, by the way, because she doesn't like to focus on us. But I'll tell you, this is what Dan probably read is, she said, I she's like, I'm the one who said that she would take humanity over all others, right? She would take humanity in a bet, in a when she stood, I would take them over everyone else, because of the human spirit, because of what she saw, because of the potential she saw. And then she told me, she goes, now I have to prove it. So, you know, I know people are in hard situations out there, but for anyone who feels like they're alone in this, and anyone who feels like They can't go on anymore. I do want you to know you're not alone. There's somebody who stood up for you, who believes in you. So I'd rather you take responsibility for that weight. Excuse me. I'd rather you take responsibility for that. I'd rather you realize the value of that you have someone who is fighting for you even when you don't care. I'd rather everybody with a nefarious agenda just lay down your weapons. You're fighting against your own people. Everybody who's trying to, in the government, who's too stubborn and too proud and too important to just accept that you're not the boss. You're not. You're not. You're not the best candidate for the job. You're not. If you are opposing this woman still, after all she's done for you, and if you're not living and on this planet, then you're excluded. But if you're living and you're on this planet, she has stood up for you too. Every one of us. And I bet you, you know, if the circumstances were right, most people wouldn't even go outside to help her from getting beat up, right? Because we'd be too scared. There's this phenomenon that happens. There's a famous event that happened in New York with this serial killer, and one of his victims he would rape and torture them, and eventually kill them for months. And it was right in the I think it was right in the Village, and one of his victims got out and was covered in blood, running buck naked down the street in the middle of the Village. And everybody at that time, they would all sit there with their blinds wide open. You could walk down the street and look into the windows like they were television sets, right? See what everybody was doing, and they could see you, right? Because the streets were so bright. And as this person ran screaming for help down the street, naked, everyone shut their blinds, and every single person shut their blinds, thinking the next person. So that's not my problem. Someone else will take care of it. Someone else will handle that. And that person got killed. You know, not to mention the several other people. They thought it was a domestic dispute between a homosexual couple, so they all just ignored it. So my point is that so many times we have the opportunity to do something, and we just close the blinds, and we want someone else to take care of it. And right now, specifically, if you're just someone who wants to do more, that's fine. If you're someone who's doing all you can do, I don't want you to feel guilty. But if you are someone in a position in the government and you are hedging your bet that we're going to lose, if you are thinking that these same characters who have been in control for forever, because that's all you've ever known, are going to win. If you are in that position right now, I want you to really consider this. You might just be a coward. You might just you might just be a coward, but it's more than that. Do you want to be a coward who's the reason why humanity got enslaved? Because there are karmic consequences. There are things that happen. Now, maybe you're okay with being a coward, but do you really want to be the coward? They got your own family enslaved and killed. Do you really want to be that one? So all those guys at the you know top levels who think that they have this incredible prowess, that they're doing something really noble because they're warriors. You're not. You're killers. You're cowards. You're standing up for people that would just as soon eat you, and they don't respect you, they don't love you, they don't care about you, and they're not going to save you. So I'm begging you, come over to the side where you see the most heroic behavior, because you have a single woman by herself who's been betrayed by nearly everyone, hundreds of people who've worked close with her. betrayed her, talk about her, tried to kill her, will not help her, will lie about her, have plotted against her. And she continues to fight for all of you and me. She cares more about most of our lives than we do. So, anybody out there saying she's volatile and hard to work with, shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Because you're a punk. I'm tired of hearing about this kind of nonsense from people. She's not hard to work with. You're a coward. And it's hard for her to work with cowards. That's a problem. So I just want to throw that out there. Get things started off.
Oh, that was intense, man. I let you go. I let you just go on that one. So it's
Yeah.
very
Sorry about
powerful.
that.
But yeah, I was kind of talking a little bit about not exactly. The people that are out there in all of these systems, or there's the GCR, there's all these good people, but there's people in positions of power, that could change what they're doing, right, and allow this to move forward, allow the downloads to move without, the tellers, having the death grip on the cash at the window there, right? So if it's in the compliance department and you see that it's $100 million in someone's account and their average is 2,000, okay, well, what's wrong with them having that much money?
Exactly. That is the mentality. Why is it that you think, why is it that we think we're not allowed to have money? Even this,
I'm sure if the teller was at her own account and so that there was 100 million in it, she'd be okay with that.
something? No, I'll tell you what. I don't know
I
if
got
it
to
would
kick
be.
this to compliance.
No, man, I'm telling you. Listen, I've watched this happen one time. A group of my friends, we were standing outside. There was one girl, and she needed money. I mean, she needed it. She prayed for it. I mean, she was a, you know, like God fearing Bible, like loved, you know, church and things like that, right? And really would spend all her time just like really dedicated to God. But she was broke, and she needed money to buy a new car. She needed money to buy a new car. We were standing in the subway station, and all of a sudden she literally was standing there. She looks down at her feet. She kicks an envelope, and the envelope has $7,000 in cash in it, sitting there at her feet. No name on it, nothing, right? And she was just talking about just literally. I would have been like, I manifested this. I'd have put that in my pocket. I wouldn't have thought twice about it. She couldn't even handle taking that money because she felt too guilty. She was too afraid. And she gave it to
At that point, you're in the subway. Oh, anyone lose this bundle of cash? Oh, I did. I
yeah,
did. I
yeah,
did.
right. What are you gonna do, right? Just pick it up and put it in your bag and just be grateful. Like you can't track it down. Now, if you saw some woman there like screaming that she lost, her rent money, I mean, like you'll give it back. But like other than that, like what are you gonna do? Like
Oh, someone's in a wallet with a name. It's a different
right.
story, right?
Yeah, if you found a wallet with 7 grand in the name, that's different, of course, right? But you didn't. It's probably some drug dealer's money, right, or something like that, or some other crime, right? But it's not your crime. You didn't do anything wrong, right? Like a drug dealer or whoever, criminal just got sloppy and dropped their money. But I remember she couldn't take it. She couldn't accept prosperity in her life. We did a rummage sale when we moved in my house, and I had all of this stuff in our basement because we had twin boys. So you can imagine when you get twin boys, and they were the first twins, in either of our families, and the first grandkids from both sides. So we got gifts from all over the place, tons of stuff that we never used, right? Because you got two of everything, and we had extras. So we had all this stuff, and we thought, look, let's just put it. We were moving, so we put it all in the front yard. It was still in the package. It was sealed shut, right? It was brand new stuff, right? I put it out in the front part. I mean, it was its own rummage sale in the front of my house, all brand new things for free. right? I thought, we'll help the neighborhood out. I'm sure lots of people could use this stuff. You know, that stuff sat there for 2 days. No one stole anything. No one took anything. Not a single thing moved. And I had a sign out there, free. Take it. Right? The next day, I put a sign up and I said $1. I sold every single item in an hour and a half.
Oh, that's really funny.
Yeah, so as soon as I put a value on it, people realized it was valuable, so they wanted to go scoop a deal, right? They wanted a deal, but they didn't want charity, right?
You know,
Nobody wants charity.
the sign that I always like is free dirt.
Free dirt.
Yeah, and people like, they have a bunch of dirt, and they go and put it out front. They put a sign, free dirt, and no one takes it. But yeah, so if someone put in for $1, for a box, whatever, a bucket of dirt, right? $1 a bucket, it probably would have sold very quickly.
Without question, because you put a value on it. Now, when you put a value on something, that's what makes it valuable. You take artwork. Artwork, when you have artists who struggle, it's because they don't believe in themselves, right? So they have a hard time. They'll sell their work for like $20. Big painting that the supplies cost them more than $20, right?
Right.
But as soon as you put a price tag on that, and you say this is what it is, and then someone comes and offers you money for it, and you reject it, you say, I'm sorry, it's worth more than that. What you've done is you've given a value to something and you've stood by it. Now, that's what Kim's done for all of us. She's given us a value and she stood by it. Now, that's what we have to do for ourselves, by the way. We have to value ourselves and stand by it. You deserve freedom. You were born that way, right? We deserve it. Own it. We don't, that word. I mean, I have been so programmed my whole life about, when I was a Baptist, they trained you to say, we're all born sinners. You have to repent and you have to submit yourself, right? You have to accept Jesus Christ as your Savior, right? That He died on the cross for your sins, and you know it. You have to, right? And my church was the most boring, strict, rigid, hard place to go to church. It was like a place where kids go to sleep. It was never fun. There was no joy there, right? And I remember when I was like trying to become a member of that church, what a hard time the pastor gave me, right? After I had spent my whole life going to church, after I'd gone to Bible camp in the summer, and I'd, cried as I accepted the Lord as my Savior when I was a kid, right? And he continued to demoralize me and make me feel ashamed about who I was. He wanted to know I was ashamed, right? He wanted to have that breakthrough moment. That's not God. That's not who we are, right? But I remember my whole life. Then I was in another religion for 20 more years that I dedicated my whole life with, because I was just trying to make peace with God. I was just trying to make peace with the way that I knew God to be, right? And that was absolute submission, absolute submission, and everything. I was in my next in the religion I was in for 20 years after that. They said you were born a satanic spirit. So I spent my whole adult life thinking that way. I'm a satanic spirit. I'm not worth anything. So I wouldn't even use the word "I deserve this" or "I earned this." I wouldn't even say those words because I was so terrified about getting what I deserved, and it would be punishment. I know there's Christians out there who know exactly what I'm talking about. Lots of people, I'm sure, from different religions. So I think about that now and realizing what a disservice that is to the source that we come from. That my whole life I spent that way, you know, not not at peace with who I am. You see, there's no way to be at peace with yourself and be at peace with a God who's forcing you into subservience all the time. who tells you that you can't do anything, that you have to look to him and wait. Because if that's what we always do, then you can never tap into your real power. You'll never be able to really access the divine nature that you were given because you don't believe it's real. Matter of fact, you think it's a sin to say that. Now that's how we were raised. But I'm telling you, you deserve to be free. You deserve love in your life. You deserve to be happy. You deserve opportunities. And you deserve to get paid what you're worth.
You deserve 100 million in your account.
Some people do, some people don't. But
If you want to put a number to it.
well, yeah. I was trying to keep it, a little ambiguous. But yeah. I can feel. I just can feel the energy on people, even if they're not talking. I can feel them connecting to the phone. I can feel them connected to the screen. I mean, we're just we have all been through this incredible journey, right? No matter who you are, you spent a lifetime as a slave right now, right? You spent your entire life enslaved.
I can't even think back at a time when I thought that, acted like that.
But you acted like a slave.
Yeah, and from the very beginning, there's no. I mean, I was aware of the scarecrow entity. First time even working and filling out the W-2, and going, this is craziness. So just looking at the process and things like that. Yeah, claimed exempt.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
Smart.
So I saw the system. And well, how do I maneuver this? How do I stay, in a position, because I know that this is fraudulent, but it's they have the big guns, right? And as they're showing, they're going to come in, to Roger Stone's house, right? In the early morning hours with the super SWAT, and helicopters and
take him down. Thank God. Good work, FBI. Crack team and investigating you guys did. 27 guys to take down one guy who was completely harmless. Well, who knows what else?
And already been going into for testimonies. I mean, he could have been picked up at any time. Yeah, he said I would have just volunteered. They wanted me to come in. So how much money was wasted just for the show of force? Even when I mentioned this before, my assistant was a raw foodie, right? She ate only raw foods, and they had pasteurized milk, and they came in with a SWAT team. These people are not dangerous. You want to claim their food is dangerous, okay, but
wait,
it's
Dan,
true.
Wait, is there more to that story? Because I feel like there's got to be more to that story, isn't there? Like pasteurized milk, like they just came in with it. Like what was it? Like how did they know?
Because they had their own co-op, a store, right, where all the food was raw, meat, dairy, eggs, unrefrigerated eggs. The whole point was, but even with the raw milk, it was still refrigerated, right? It wasn't that they weren't using refrigeration, but certain things like eggs, it wasn't. She'd always keep her eggs out. She'd buy from a farm, right? That would keep things that were raw, for that for people that wanted true nutrients, undestroyed. Every time you heat something, it's going to basically destroy nutrients, and that makes sense.
Raw cooperative.
That's the raw Confederacy, not the raw. Raw. But it's all about keeping people fearful of anything else, right? The same thing with the Bitcoin. The people that are on Bitcoin first started getting out there. They came in with SWAT teams, and they said, and on the news, we've raided Bitcoin, right? The feds raided Bitcoin. you can't raid Bitcoin. They raided some company that was doing a Bitcoin related business, but anyways, but that just caused so much fear, right? And it's all about creating fear, 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 so that you don't act in those ways anymore. Same. On it's a censorship now. With on YouTube, they have these type of systems there that to make you fearful, try to contain what you're going to say, how you say it, so that they can control you, and that's what it's about. So
Yeah, and it's twofold, right? Like they're diminishing our mental capacity, right? At least of the masses, right? They're well, not twofold. It's multi levels, right? This is how dangerous you are. Just anybody on there, anybody listening, this is how dangerous you are as a human being.
yeah,
Here's what had to happen: your entire environment had to be covered with chemicals and smart dust, or nanites, to put in you to try and force a frequency into your body that would shorten your life, amongst other things that Dan will talk about with things like that, which I'm sure knows more about it. Fluoride, right? They put fluoride in your drinking water, and whenever they want to, talk about something like, oh, this area is great, must be something in the water, they'll say, right? Because that's a methodology of poisoning people, right? So they put fluoride, which calcifies in your body, all throughout your body. And Dan has explained this a bunch of times, and I just haven't, recorded it in my mind. But, basically, it's going to do all types of damage to your body. This is how dangerous you are. They need you diminished and dull. They take your food and they reduce the nutrients so much that your body can't even regenerate properly to do what it needs to do. So now your lifespan is shortened. Your body is defunct. It can't communicate properly. Your brain and the rest of your body can't heal itself the way it naturally does. All of those things are shut off, and there's all of this heavy equipment going on in your body, right? Now that's just what they did to start. So then that wasn't enough. They had to take it a step further and use every mainstream media outlet, every single one, and project the same, well, excuse me, project the same lies, making it appear like they're on different sides, right? But just to create a conflict too. So even when the truth comes out, you don't even recognize it, because we've been so indoctrinated in something that's not true. So now you've been attacked in the air, in the sea, in the land, in the ether, and the frequencies being sent out to you in every aspect of what you are. And what that'll do is it'll naturally it'll take your drive, and it'll beat you up. They did all that against us, and despite that, we're winning. That's how powerful you are.
yeah. Well, we are dangerous to them, yes, because they want to keep us under an illusion. So they keep that that program going. They have, and if they can keep you in fear, they can steer you away from getting out. So they want to come down on everyone, but it's breaking down quickly, and it's I think we're going to have a completely new world within by the time we're uh, within the next 2 years, all of this that we've been dealing with is going to be pretty much gone, including, the banking system will be completely replaced. You'd walk into a bank and it would be a completely different experience. And maybe we rename them the ANKs, right?
Honk.
ANKs,
Yeah. Yep.
ANKs, double A, and A.
I asked him one time to when she told me Bank of America was going down. I wanted to take it over and rename it Tank of America.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, are you going to do that?
Still on the table. We'll see. like I make it a point to always remind Kim. I always ask her, you can always download me Kung Fu. Just saying. If it comes up, it comes up. Now, but it's just amazing to me. Now, yes, that's what they do. So they diminish us, right? They diminish, then they feed us with fear, right? So they create. Prince was talking about this on like a talk show before he died, or before he disappeared. And he was on this talk show talking about why is one neighborhood, completely agitated and stressed out, right? And they're spraying chemtrails over there, right? Because they're pushing that, right? Then they broadcast in a frequency that sparks that within people. You know, it's not it's not we're not racially prone to because the teaspoon of melanin in our skin that makes us really white or really dark. That's the difference between you know the races, the color of skin that people get so um, caught up about. That is not what makes somebody hostile. It's that we've been drugged. Now
So
that
when
being
why
said,
don't we get some like designer melanin? We get like turn purple or green, blue.
you know that's a brilliant idea, Dan, that we should definitely talk about. I feel like that would be amazing if you could
Yeah.
just make
Yeah.
yourself cool colors.
Oh, then you could. Well, never mind. I'll leave that idea in the vault now. So
Yeah.
yeah, because it would. Never mind. I don't even want to talk about it. So
It's like designer babies that they want to make, right?
yeah, something
Genetically.
like that. Yeah, I didn't want to like put that out there because then someone would do it and I'd say, oh, why did I say that? Yeah, because it wasn't really, it was more of a joke.
Well,
Sometimes.
but look, that's the thing. See, even that, right? We're so used to people doing horrible things. It's like, if it was possible to turn yourself purple for blue for a day, like it wouldn't be the end of the world. If that was possible, that wouldn't be a tragic thing. Like it could just be a fun thing. Like we should be able to joke and we should be able to laugh and talk about regular things, right? And I shouldn't have to worry because I told people they were dangerous. Like, oh no, now they're gonna come after me. Like, you know what? Go ahead. Anybody can try to come after me and try to make it look like I'm stirring a violent revolution. They're insane. It's ridiculous. I I see right through them, and everybody has to. And the more we all see through them, the less power they have. It's nonsense. I've never encouraged anyone to be violent in my life. No, that's not true. That's not true. I did tell my sons if somebody tried to bite him to punch him in the nose. Just because I didn't want my son getting bit, but there's more on the defense side. But point being, all of us are under attack. All of us have been under attack. So now part of the call right now that people feel, the anxiety they feel, is how do I fight this? Right? How do I stand up? Because that is what they've done. They it's not that they're stronger than you or smarter than you or better than you. It's that at some point they told you that you had to bow because they were so great.
So do you see what I'm showing?
I don't, but I'll pop it up. Hold up.
These are blue-skinned people.
Like
It's
real blue skin people.
literally their melanin is turned them. They're blue colored.
Wow. That looks like. I mean, he looks a lot like Papa Smurf. Or they make him
I
change
know.
colors.
That's it. He's Papa Smurf. Now, of course, some of these are not all about that, but it's literally a disease, right? But they turn blue. I don't think this is a real blue, but they're really blue, and of course that's an alien blue.
That. Oh, I was gonna say that guy at the bottom is really cool, actually. Oh, that's fascinating.
So yeah, it's. I mean, it's just. I put in blue-skinned people, right? But if we go back to the web, it says right here. So anyway, we'll stop that. Anyways, I just want to point out that we can have multiple colors. Again, I haven't looked up green, but I did see an interview with that guy that was blue, right? And he wasn't always blue. He turned blue. because of a particular disease. It affected his melanin, and he ended up turning blue. And some actually turn more blue than others. Different shades of blue, darker, lighter. But yeah, that guy looked like Papa Smurf.
I mean, that's a really, I mean, were there side effects? Or was it just
Yeah,
like blue skin?
that is the side effect. Yeah.
I mean, I just feel like, it's like I don't particularly want to turn blue, but like if that's what happened and I was like blue, it's like, oh,
Well, I mean,
it's not.
you're talking
I can still
about
function.
the amount of melanin, determining your skin color. We have people that have no melanin, right, albino, to the people that are turning blue, and so it doesn't matter. We're just people, right? The skin color doesn't matter, but it all comes down to fear, right? Fear of what you don't know, fear of other people. It all always creates a bad situation that affects you. You're the one in fear, and so nothing's good is coming of that. Your actions are not. There's the fight or flight response. Great. There's a point of having fear, and it's supposed to last for 2 seconds, and then you deal with it and don't be in fear anymore. Right? It's not about being in a constant state of fear that you're paranoid and can't do anything. You recognize what the threat is, and then you deal with it, even if it's still to fly away, or avoid, or have defensive. Fighting might also be defensive, but we're still all just people. Everywhere in the world, we just need to not be fearful of everyone else. So, I just want to also make a note. I did send Tui the link, so in case Tui doesn't know, I sent him the link. Sometimes we're in the middle of a conversation, so I send the link and I forget to say that I did that. So we'll see if Tui is going to jump on. So let's see what else
So
at hand. There is a lot going on now. But go ahead. What were you going to say?
yeah, so right now, basically, Kim is working uh, to bypass even the tellers. Is what I to take any human interference out of the equation. Um, and I kind of speculate. I mean, I know she got to the teller level, and my version of it is kind of speculation. I mean, she didn't tell me those exact things, but it's kind of a pretty much a logical conclusion for the most part. That you get to a certain point, and it's like, well, how do you get beyond this, right? So but she's trying to do that now, and that would make a lot of sense. I guess ideally that we could access funds, our accounts, without being hindered online, and probably at the ATM machine, right? Now, it might be a problem when we're going to get cashier's checks, but I think only in the beginning, because the system would obviously adjust, right? Once people in the banks realize, like, oh, like they
There's
actually have
another
this
one.
money.
Another one with 100 million. Here's another. Oh,
Yeah,
you got $1 billion in your account.
right. Like, so
Yeah.
so so this would more or less be the initial stage, and I had thought she was going to do something similar to that with her own bank, because she does, she owned two banks before she ever even started this process, um, in her lifetime, and she built another bank there that we learned about with the Kingdom of Manna, and I know she recently was in the process of building a. She said it wasn't a bank exactly, but it was similar function. So maybe a credit union, but same world.
Sure.
So at the end of the day, though, I mean, that's the anybody concerned about the holdup and the frustration. I I think it's really important for people to hold on to something that's real, because there's nothing worse than holding on to something you think is real and it's not even close, right? I mean, that's devastating. So, this is real. You know, Kim is real. She's a regular person. She gets mad and cusses just like we do, and but she she's definitely tenacious. So exciting times though, because you know what, this is really a legendary time that we're witnessing, right? That I feel in part responsible to make sure I tell the story of. you know, that's that's the whole. I didn't start it out this way with the Speak Project. That wasn't what I was thinking. But if you go to the first page of the Speak Project, it turned out to be kind of a prophecy, right? It talks about the Speak Project is dedicated to those who stood up when everyone else stood down. The ones who were called to action, and they took the call, right? When most of the world was just trying to ignore it away.
Well, we're standing up right here.
There you go. Ah, exciting times.
Well, this is part of standing up, right? So take action, share the link. I've done it before. Share it again. Give a like. Where it's hard for me to move around. Just so you know, when I started this, my normal process was again interfered with because the browser that I normally use wouldn't allow me to sign into YouTube. I went through all
Really?
the help things, and so I had to actually switch browsers. Just everything stopped working. Do not know why. But that's one of those things. So anyway, we've got 131 people watching right now, and
I got more reports, by the way, of other people logging into 400 plus people, 500 plus people at a time. I got separate reports from the ones you had in chat.
Oh,
so
yeah. So people around the world that are watching, right? They're in a branch of YouTube somewhere, right? So sometimes their branches are not all synced up properly with what's going on, right? With the shadow banning that they do. So they're coordinating. They're putting an overlay on their system and telling it to act differently than it was designed to. So that doesn't always translate around the world. So where we may be seeing 132 people watching, other people might be looking at it as, well, this is 400 people, 800 people. Someone said there was 900 people watching. And that's in broadcasts that I've had in the past off of this subject with half the subscribers that I have right now, which is just 12,100 subscribers. Having 400, 500, 600, 1,000 people watching happened, often. So having twice the amount of subscribers and it's only showing 131 people watching, yeah, I think that, and plus people have reported in, yeah, I'm watching, I see this, I am watching, I see that. They can see that the number of people watching is much higher. So it just shows that this is the world we live in, where they're trying to manipulate the way you see things, right? By what is called social evidence. The more something is popular, the more value you give to it. So if you see something has hundreds of thousands of views, you think it's more valuable than something that has 10 views.
Yep.
And the thing with 10 views might be the most important thing in the whole world. But it doesn't matter how many people view it, they don't allow it to get more than 10. It's just locked in. You could look at it. So we've seen the evidence here. As I said that one time, I said, hey, look, we got 2 views and there's 30 people in the chat room.
Right. Yeah.
How's that happen?
Classic. Yeah. How does that happen? Exactly.
So they have a complicated system right here, and that's why when I look at statistical things in the back office of YouTube, right? When you're looking at how many views you have per day, Oh, and by the way, another interesting thing is it always shows it on the monetization when you're running ads, right? When we started this, it was going up like $3, $4, $5 a day. The revenue that would come from the ads. Okay, so we end up being a few $100s. So and it was going up, and it got up to where it was doing like went up like $10 in one day. I said, oh, that's good. When it happens 30 days in a row, it'll be $300.
Sure.
Right. For the last week, it hasn't moved up. Not even it would actually dropped $1 and went back.
How?
And
Do people
then it went
unwatch it?
back up, and then it went back up, right? So
Right.
like, it's really I understand all the frustration of the people like SGT Report. I really like his videos. Please go and subscribe to him. He's saying half of his videos are not being monetized, right? Because they'll say a certain word, right? And I even wanted to see if I've got there is the you can actually do a direct support. There's a little thing next to where you type in your things in the super chat. Below there's a little $sign. You can even contribute. Some of the like Edge of Wonder, they're relying on that now for them to get money because their videos, which are so powerful, and they did a 4-part series on communism, and they won't allow them to monetize.
Yeah.
One of the other things that they're doing is they're saying, "Oh, you can't it's not monetizable, but you can request a review." And you say, "Well, I didn't say anything that was bad in this or that on their bad list, right?" And so I request a review, and they'll only do it after 1,000 views. Now, if the videos are according to this system, right, that they're presenting us, only is getting 2,000 views, and they only review it after 1,000 views, that means half of your revenue would have been cut out. All of these little games that they're playing to rip off the YouTube subscribers, right? Because the content deal for this is right here. They're going to provide the platform. They're going to put ads, and then then they're going to split the ad revenue with the content provider. That's the deal, right? No matter what they put in their terms and conditions, whatever they change in the little fine print and in some obscure upgrade or something that send up some extra information, they want to call that the legal side of it. No one can track that, even if you had a staff of attorneys, right? No, so it's not on a social contract, right? That with the world, it's not legitimate what they're doing. Doesn't matter what the spelling that they put into it and the word meanings and the gameplay. It's the social contract they have with the people out here that are providing you content, right, for you to watch. So
Right.
it's frustrating. Anyway, let me just say, please support me and what I'm doing here by participating with my AbundanceMind.club project or getting involved with the Kringle Society and that cryptocurrency, which is not market-based, but just about community-based. Value comes from people. You get free coin. Actually, there's a change in that the lifetime wallet fee has gone from 4 grains of gold to 8 grains of gold, which is doubling. And so it's now about $22 for the lifetime wallet fee that just started. So there's a lot of people talking about that. But this is also there's ways to do cash flow in the system to help build the community. We're at 3.3 million people, and we're growing at a very good rate. I have been preparing a video for the last couple weeks showing that in regard to the other cryptocurrencies out there, the amount of transactions per day.
Mhm.
I have an independent site that rates like the wallet is getting about 13,800 um, hits a day, compared to the transactions per day of these other cryptocurrencies. If you exclude Bitcoin and Ethereum and Ripple from the mix, because they're so high up there because of all the exchanges on the exchanges, the market exchanges, where it's kind of like the casino. You're going to play the up and down. You exclude all of that, that everyone comes way down because they don't use it to do transactions. They're using it to play in a game. So we would be in the top 5 of all the cryptocurrencies. That's amazing in itself. Again,
Yeah, it is amazing.
no market, no place where you can go cash out. Everyone says, well, how do you cash out? You don't cash out, you use it as cash. You buy things. Isn't that what you're supposed to do with money? Use it as a medium of exchange. Don't go to these casino marketplaces are how they manipulate people. It's set up for the biggest, sucking out of the people's wealth in this next run up. It's going to go from $4,000 a coin or $5,000 a coin now. It went up like $1,200 a couple days ago. In an afternoon, I don't know, right? So shot up 20%, but that's because they forced the price down. They're all buying up all the big amounts of coin off the market, so no one sees the rise, right? So they keep the market depressed, so that they can have it go up and down on its way up. It's going to go to $100,000 a coin. It's at $5,000 a coin right now. That's why I know AbundanceMine.club is now going to have all these people running to get on so that they could do Bitcoin mining, right? Because it's going to be going up so fast. Anyway, I'm sorry to get into all that, but please support what I'm doing here. Participate, or even just go ahead and give a donation here in the super chat. Actually, I'd like to see if that actually works. If someone wants to go ahead and contribute $1 on the super chat, I'd like to see it if it's actually functional. I don't know. Share the screen. So it's right here. You click on that. It brings this up, and you can go ahead and submit an amount. Buy and send. Functions and how it comes into the system. If you want to send $1, that would be appreciated. So I said the guys from Edge of Wonder are doing fantastic, right? This theory on communism. If you want to know what's behind why communism exists, why it's the deep state religion, that would be the one thing to look for, right? So they have fantastic little productions that they do on particular topics. So they're doing live broadcasts now. So anyway, I'll stop that. So
You're okay.
Sorry to break off into commercial mode. It's good people that like to participate and work with me, there's a lot that we do to make things happen in the world. All these efforts in the way that I'm doing it is to create some sort of abundance situation for people. The Pringle Society, is very unique, right? And because it's distributing wealth based upon the membership, right? And it's not there's no way to go to a market with it. You can't be on the market exchanges. And then there's abundance mind. It's another abundance principles. Now turning that into a way of how do we turn that into a power system, where we can actually create energy and use it in the existing world. You're still paying your electricity bill as normal, but it becomes where you actually can make a profit off of using electricity. So that's an abundance way of thinking. How do you create a system where because you use it, you make more? That's the types of systems we need to put out there. So anyway,
Look, man, I tell you, as a rule, like I'm not the biggest fan of Bitcoin, but I'm a fan of you, man. So I would rather you break off into an advertisement than have somebody else advertising flashlights or something. So that's fine.
If the guys with the flashlights came to me and wanted me to sell the flashlights, I'd put it up there for the ad revenue. It would be a good thing. So sorry about that, but if you're flashlight people are watching, just go ahead. My Telegram link is down below. Just go ahead and give me.
Everybody needs flashlights.
And then we'll put it on just before Tank gets on.
Right. Please, I try to hang back, let you get all the ads in.
Yeah, we'll get all this really good stuff that we're launching off with. It's like interesting to see how the like Hawaii is happening, and Tui was talking to the people in Hawaii at the same time that I had brought it up, and we didn't talk beforehand, and it wasn't a plan to bring up Hawaii. It just was the topic of what was happening. I had independently got information from Hawaii. Even another my partner with the hydro power system. He has connections with people in Hawaii, and he was saying, "Yeah, I was just talking with Brandon," and I said, "Yeah, I know Brandon," but Brandon stopped using his Telegram, so I sent a message, but he doesn't reply. Tell him to reply. Get back on Telegram and contact me. He's the, I guess, Secretary of State of the nation of Hawaii.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
Under with Uncle Bumpy, who was I guess he'd be the head of state. Yeah.
I talked to Jude Chase today, and she's in Hawaii right now, and she has been working with. I'm excuse my ignorance on this. I'm not sure which group it is because I've talked to I've talked to 4 different groups. Some prominent members of those groups. I've talked to King Silva, and I've talked to Queen Grace, and I've talked to members of the other 2. But I guess there's 5 groups who claim to be, the Kingdom of Hawaii, right? The rightful heirs to that. And she was telling me that all of them came together recently, and because what I said was
they signed a constitution.
Okay.
The groups came together and they signed a constitution.
Now, I didn't know that. I mean, I must have missed that if you guys talked about it the other night. But that to me is a very, very significant move right now, because it really speaks to, you have these tribes that have been, at each other's throats. Like I've been there. I mean, it's a really, you know, it's a really deep seated anger at times, right?
Right.
That's what I saw.
They should be angry about it, right? But no, you're correct.
But even them, they would be. But what they did is classic, right? They divided them against each other, right?
Oh.
So even though they should be mad at someone else, right, for occupying their territory and trying to make them something they're not, they ended up being divided against each other. And so to see them come together to me is a witness to everybody, because they're demonstrating what all of us need to do, right? We need to realize it is not, we're not the enemy of one another the way it's been portrayed, right? There has been outside sources that we allowed to come in and basically enslave us. And the only way, the only way to really fight against that is what we're doing now. Tui set an incredible example by coming out, right? Actually, and Kim set the example before that, right? And in the Intel world, I was setting an example. And Dan is the one who stepped up and said, "Come on the show." It takes people who are willing to set the example and break from the normal protocol, right? Because everyone thinks that they're in the know, and when you think you're in the know, and you think you're in the know because you're keeping someone's secrets, secrets have been used as the tool for the secret societies, right, to stay in power. That's what they used, right? They knew stuff we didn't know, right? It was this secret fraternal brotherhood. They had videotapes of each other doing horrible things that so they always knew they had each other's loyalty, right? But they weren't loyal to each other because they loved each other, right? They were
Right.
loyal to each other because they had dirt on one another, right? So that's blackmail. So their whole methodology was this blackmail, this world of blackmail and deceit. So we get to make an entirely different mold. If you listen to what Tui's been talking about, he's coming out and saying about all these different tribes. He's like, we speak the same language. Now, I guess he's talking about a physical language, but he's talking about a spiritual language, right? Like we speak the same language, right? Like I'm for the people. And I'll tell you what, I don't speak Fijian or Hawaiian, but I'll tell you, I speak the same language too, right? And all of us need to embrace that language, right? That's a language of the heart that speaks to the truth speaking. Not just saying true things, but being the truth in all that you do. So I just think that's exciting, to hear they're coming together. Because the first thing I said was like, they're all divided. Like, how would I know who to support? You know, that was
Right.
like,
Well, when I went there, I met with the two biggest, most organized groups. One was organized better on this level. One was organized better on this level. And both had the same goal, and both of them wanted to come together. I mean, they both were, they realized that they have to work together. The division is what keeps people weak. So together we are strong. Another QAnon you know rallying call, right? Dark to light. Together we are strong. These type of slogans are really help us focus on what's important, and that's staying together. Don't allow them to divide us,
yep,
even if you're
yep,
blue skinned.
blue skin. We support blue skin people. You are welcome in
Green
our tribe.
skinned people, no green skinned people allowed. No, blue skin is okay. Green skin, no. I'm just joking. The green skinned people can also join.
Yes, we are pro green skin people. For the record,
Yeah.
we
No
will
matter
have a
your
public
color,
statement.
green, blue, purple.
Right. So anyway, what you already talked about these articles, but it's a marked shift. What I brought up last night, Kim confirmed today that when you had uh, Christy Nielsen step down as the Secretary of Homeland Security,
Uh-huh.
right? That is without question. That is um, because of what Kim is doing and what she's actually being. You know, it's not to do with the border so much as the money, right?
Hmm.
And I still believe that the real issue with the wall isn't as much about the border wall so much as there has to be a wall put up to protect the people. I mean, all the people, right? From these um, rich, kind of cannibal elites that are,
Well,
that are.
I also see like Trump had nominated Herman King to be on the Fed board, right? So I think that's a very positive because he's a genuine guy, right? I think as a businessman that went out and built a business and made a lot of money, but when he ran for president, they went after him, like no tomorrow. He wasn't able to outmaneuver you know, the hit job that they did against him. And another rich guy that likes beautiful women. I don't know, how you're going to find someone that's a rich guy that doesn't like beautiful women. You know,
or any guy for that matter. Yeah.
but that's
I mean,
kind of the point. Is it could be anyone up there is going to be normal. We want the
yeah.
normal people. The ones that made a pass at a girl and slapped his face. That's okay.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Yep.
And
It's
nowadays, if you're polite, right, or gentlemanly, and you hold a door open for a woman, you could maybe expect to get slapped in your face. Now, is that could be used against you in the future? Yes. Well, he held the door open for me. How dare he do that? I slapped him.
you know what? You will never break me from that. I love that stuff. I think women should be taken care of and cherished and loved. And you know what? The least I can do is open a door for you. And if you are such, uh, I don't know what is it called when you hate men. Like a man who hates women is called a
Feminazi?
misogynist. But I don't know what the other is. But if you are so
Feminazi.
determined to be independent, I'm not trying to hinder you, but I will open the door for you
How dare
against your will, even. Nah, man, but I was thinking about all the stuff with Q and all this other stuff. What's happening right now, like these pieces, because they're direct results of things we talked about here on this broadcast, right? We talked about Kim came to terms with the Secret Service. Now, if you saw the report today, it says that 10 days ago he was told to come up with a plan, an exit strategy, because he was being removed, right? Which it was about 15 days ago that Kim said she came to terms, right? So all those things are playing out, right? We know I know this for a fact. There is a one of the contractors for Homeland Security has indemnified every bank for every single transaction that comes out of Manna. So even the idea of our transactions getting kicked back to compliance, it just speaks to how compartmentalized the banking system is because the
yeah,
people in the front don't know what's going on in the back. So when they see a big number, they just, you know, they panic because that can't possibly be right because regular people aren't allowed to have money like that.
right. They
Especially
never
people that are
see.
gonna do good things. Like what did you do to get this money? And in one of the many pleasant experiences I had this year in learning about how the cabal is a pack of cowards, uh, this one group called me from Chase Bank, and I had spent 3 weeks straight every single day. I was in back and forth to in Manhattan. I was going from bank to bank to bank, working on them to be like, look, I had the account already set up for the Guardian Camelot. As a matter of fact, I had transfers that were set to come in, and we were making arrangements to do a real time gross settlement. And this, finally, they kicked me up. So what they did is they blocked me with this one gentleman. His name was Troy something. Oh, Troy Apollo was his name, right? And oh no, Frank Apollo was the guy's name. Frank Apollo, right? Now Frank Apollo, he was the he was the guy who was over the humanitarian projects, right? He was the guy who did humanitarian funding. So now what that really means for everybody who loves those terms, right? So in that letter we received the other day, it was talking about someone being a humanitarian ambassador, right? Now humanitarian is a term that goes back to the law of war. And what it is it dictates what is appropriate treatment for human beings during times of war. That's what humanitarian really means.
Ah,
So just by doing humanitarian projects, you are accepting, by pursuing
in the
that
state of
funding, you
war.
are acknowledging that we're in a state of war. So that's why I'm always saying, look, we're not doing humanitarian projects. We are doing human empowerment projects,
Yeah,
right?
I got it. Thank you
So
for explaining that.
yeah, no problem.
I was going
So
to ask you that question. It just slipped my mind. It's like, what do you mean humanitarian is a bad word?
right, because they're humanitarians, like like cowboys, right? It's just a term. They're just talking about what they do business in, the business of humans. So so in that, that was his job in humanitarian projects. Now, all the real money for humanitarian projects have always been set. Now, everybody who's in the GCR will be familiar with this term, that you were told at some point that you were going to take your Zim in. You could ask for as much money as you wanted, but 80% of that money was going to be put to humanitarian projects that you had nothing to do with, and it was going to be kept from you. Now, the reality of what that meant was 80% of that money would have gone directly to the Rothschilds or the Dragon families, right? It would have been divided amongst them. So, in other words, they would have maintained the ultimate power, anyways. So, that 80% is their cut. So when it comes to a humanitarian project, the wall that Frank Apollo was for us, is his job was to block us, right? So when they found out who we were, they did a background check on Manna. All of a sudden, I couldn't get an answer from anybody. But and Frank Apollo was the guy who called me. I talked about what we were doing, and he blocked me in every possible way. They act like they didn't know me. Every place we go, they tried to make me look like I was a scam. Meanwhile, they're running a scam. And then after a while of that debacle, they finally kicked me up to a group called the Global Security, right? Yeah, that's what it's called. Global Compliance Security, something like that, right? Now, this group is a separate group from the bank, right? And they're not registered anywhere. They don't, you know, the group wasn't a real group. I couldn't track the number. They called me up, and the guy who called me was a complete thug. He was like, "You really think they're going to let you have $100 million?" I'm like, "Wait a minute, this is legal. What are you talking about?" He goes, "You're getting scammed. Is this from Nigeria?" And like he was saying so many insulting things, right? Trying to belittle me and make me feel stupid. And I sat there on that phone with that man, and I thought to myself, there was a time I would have been so embarrassed by what he was saying. But I stood him down on everything he had to say because he was such a knucklehead. He thought he was so smart. He didn't know anything about the banking industry or how the banks work. But you know what he did understand? He did understand how the criminal organizations that run the banks work. And you're not getting you weren't getting that money unless you paid your due. That's just how it was. Now that's the way everything's worked. I've seen it firsthand. And that man went on. He just kept threatening me. He kept saying threatening things. He would drop comments to try to intimidate me. But because I'm so exercised in that, I just kept calling him out, and I recorded the whole conversation. I made sure I had every single thing he said on record. I made sure to date it, and I documented every single word of it. I never let him. I still send them an email once a month to remind them. The problem is they wear people out,
Sure.
and the winners are the ones who endure to the end. So in this case, it's an endurance race, right? We got to get to the end.
Well, there's just another false trail that they'll put you on. Even if this guy was just, hey, he's a hired actor. Hey, go out and do this and do this. Fake. This is your script, and they have you now sending them an email once a month. It's just another system of control. Now, maybe there is this department, all this, whatever, but it could be completely just another false thing that they put up there to keep you out of, this other area where you'd actually, needed to be. So.
Well, global security, I think was what it's called, right? That's the same group of mercenaries that's used by all the banks, right?
Mhm.
Now, so I had another bank. They closed down my checking account. I'm like, why? They said, you know what? All there's a no, and the woman at the bank, the people at the bank, they got nervous immediately. They said, all we know is you're supposed to call this number for global security. So I call this garbage number, and it's just a voicemail in some random guy's office, right? And so I kept calling back. I kept calling back, kept calling back, kept calling back. Because what they want you to do is call that and hope it and just walk away and hope it goes away. Because
Mhm.
they dropped global security and all of them got nervous. And that's the problem. It's our ignorance of what's happening that makes us so scared. Because we think that
Right.
they have some kind of power over us, but they don't. They don't have any power over us. They can't shut down my bank account.
Yeah, well, I think it's even more of a fraud that it's just it it is they are saying no, you're never going to get this money, even if you paid your due, right, as he said, even if you paid that out, and some money went into your account, they take it from you another way. They put you through another ringer. they do something else to
They take your money into a platform, right? They say, hey, I got a trade platform. You want to take that $1 million you just got for your inheritance and turn it into $100 million? I got this platform. You leave it in there for 5 years, you will have $100 million. Never have to work again. That's how they sell us, right?
Yeah.
They say, I've got the investment of a lifetime. It's amazing, right? So
Yeah.
and that's what they do to all of us. They capitalize on what we don't know, right?
Yeah.
So that's why they're suppressing the numbers here. They don't want people to know that that's what they're doing.
So in this, you had mentioned the 80% figure. So 80% is it has to go with humanitarian projects and all this. So my understanding of how this went down, right, is that okay? Whatever that money that's being kicked out of the program, that 70% had to go to the project, whatever the raw materials, the labor, the people on the scene that were doing it. 70% of that money had to go into that project. The 10% of this was going to be eaten up by intermediaries, attorneys, and everything else. And the 20% left over is stuff that you could put in you and spend as you want. That's your profit, right? That you're allowed to go and do anything you want to do, because this is, of course you've just made this out of this program, right? The system that you're in. But so you got to do it this way, or they're going to basically claw it back from you. They're going to literally come in and reach in and grab it and say, oh well, you didn't follow the rules, you're out of here and you can't even talk to us anymore, you're on the blacklist. That's how it's been sold to me, right? And and I know people, that say, in the beginning would say, "Oh, this stuff doesn't exist. There's no such thing," and they don't call it a platform. There was this terminology out there that was developed around this as almost an industry, called it a platform, a PPP. All this stuff, but it
Right.
was
Private placement platforms, right?
private placement, where you put your private money, you place it on a platform, and then it will return these large yields. And the thing is, it does exist, but there is no name for it, and there's purposely no name for it, because if you name something, then you can find it, you can look for it, you can ask about it. There's no name, and you go say, well, I want to know about the platform. They'll say, well, that doesn't exist, because it doesn't exist. So it's another way of keeping things away, but it does exist, and the way that you want to, but you want to describe something in a contract. And I've been through many of these contracts, and you can't name something, right? What do you say you're doing? Right? Oh, it's you're doing a transaction agreement, right? For so you come up with other terms, and someone came up one time, called it called it a platform, and it took off, right? So everyone's doing this.
Well,
So
actually, yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that the the top people in the bank will know about it. No one else. Vice presidents won't know, but a CEO would know. The one in the compliance department or whatever. One other guy is going to know, right? The guy that's in charge of doing it down at the trade desk. He knows what's going on, and all the others, that they're going to know what's going on. But it's a highly regulated, and before they even do one trade, everyone knows what the trades are going to be before they even start the next round of trading. All by contract already done, so everyone even knows how much money is going to be made.
Yep,
You know,
it's true.
and so
All of those originally existed in the trust. The trust has a private algorithm that all those platforms are run on. They're legit. They haven't run in 3 years, by the way. And so anybody who's got put their money into a trading platform and they're thinking they're going to make big money, you will never get that money. Those have been shut down for 3 years. I mean, if you've done that in the last 3 years, I mean.
So,
Sorry.
no, I do believe that there are systems that are running. I could name one. I'm not going to do it. That is running, and it is running now outside of what the trust is doing, because it is, they create these alternatives for the banks to run off of. Right, they're used to doing this, and there's a purpose to the reason why they do it. And but are you going to get your money out of it if you're going to be putting up your $1 million to do a bullet trade? Are you really going to get your money? Well, are you whose team are you on?
Yep.
Are you on the side of the ball?
And I'll say this too. I understand what you're saying, that there is someone who has a platform. There's several of them. I know several platforms that are doing things right, and they're using the same basic algorithm that they've repeated, because it wasn't that complicated to do, right?
Right.
But what they're doing is, it's a siphoning program.
Yes.
So they take the assets that, say, someone's built up over a lifetime, right? So after 45 years in the workforce, somebody retires at 65 and they have $1.5 million in the bank to retire on. And they take that money and they want to retire more comfortably, right? They want to buy, take care of their kids and leave them something, and they want to live another 30 years, right? So what they do is they take that money and they put it in a bullet trade platform. And so what they've done is they've taken their real asset, their money that was, been in there for a long time, that's probably registered, it represents a real asset. They give it to somebody to put on a bullet trade platform. The bullet trade platform generates a bunch of, you know, falsified numbers, because they don't have anything to trade with. It's just credits. Then and in some cases they might give back credits, or what they usually do is people will keep putting that money back into the next bullet trade platform, right? And they'll expect a big payout, but it never comes. I mean, now don't get me wrong. There's people that have been paid out, over time. I'm just saying, but there was a legitimate way. I mean, legit in the sense that it was recognized by law. That there was an algorithm that would trade in the trust, and that's why the trust of it was trading for 40 years, and no money went out really. For 40 years it was just trading internally, constantly increasing the value of whatever.
Well, the way that I was it was explained how and why it existed was in the world financial system. You had the humanitarian programs, which was, you need to build a dam, you need to build a road, you need to build a railway, you need to build a shipping line. You need these really large projects that are at the country level. The countries need to do this. So
Right.
where do they get the money? Well, the big asset was back there, and so that was, what's backing the system. And now you had these countries that come, I've got to build this dam, and here's the project. So the World Bank would then approve it. Okay, and here's your World Bank project number. Right. So the country would then take that over to where the IMF was, and they're going to say, okay, well, I'm going to be doing this, and I need a bank to work out of, and then they're going to go, well, here, you're going to deal with this bank. This is the bank that's going to be working with to provide the funds that are going to go into this project. So they take that project and it's going to go on to a trade desk at a bank. Maybe it's HSBC Hong Kong. Maybe it was, Standard Charter. Maybe it's, Barclays, wherever it was in the world. And so now these trades are going to now commence upon not just that one project, but all of these projects that are out there. And the trading is going to be done where this trader is going to trade with that trader his projects, and that trader is going to trade back his projects, and they're going to sell them to one another. I sell you 5% of this one, you're going to sell 5% of that one, you're going to sell 5% of this one. I have to take an intermission. My wife is over there. He wants to tell me something. So let me get back into you handle it for a moment.
So excuse me. So what Dan's talking about is there's actually something called Project Hammer, and I just sent that to uh, Gunner, who's our gentleman who manages the Speak Project, who actually it was his idea to have the Speak Project, um, and he is going to he'll post those on the Speak Project under essential documents. I just sent the documents that outline and explain Project Hammer, because Project Hammer is this whole covert operations of basically creating the back ledger system that we currently use. That's one of the challenges that we talk about with this, that people get hung up on. Kim took the position in 2012 as the trustee for for what now is called the Manna World Holding Trust. What it is registered as in every system is the unknown country, and that name stays. And the Manna World Holding Trust is just the name that she gave it. You know, Before that, it was known as the Dragon Family Trust. It was known as the Alpha Omega Trust, the White Spirit Boy Trust, and I'm sure there's other names, like that. But Dan, you back?
I'm back.
Yeah, Dan. So I just sent over to actually I'll send this to you too. Um, I just sent over to Gunner, our web designer for Project Speak, the actual documentation for Project Hammer, which is exactly it explains in detail how the bullet trade system works.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'd like to see it. So I'll continue where I left off. Right. So the countries had their projects. The traders are now going to sell. I'm going to sell 5% to you, and I'll sell 5% to you, and sell 5% to you, and that trader is going to sell 5%, 5%. But the thing is, before they even start, everyone knows. Here's all the contracts. They're going to line up the contracts for the purchases. So everyone knows what they're going to buy it for, and they know what they're going to sell it to the next guy for before they even get started. So each project goes up in price because I'm going to resell the other project that I bought from him. I'm going to sell it at a profit. I'm going to sell it at a profit. I'm going to sell it at a profit. And the next guy gets it. He's going to sell it at a profit. He's going to sell it at a profit. Next guy gets it. He's going to get it. He's going to sell it at a profit. So where does the extra money come from to sell it up higher? It's how it's created, right? So the financial system of the whole planet was set up by humanitarian project that we will now push the money into the system by this way of trading up the projects. So whenever they say we're going to now make money and put it in the system, it was never about them typing a number into the computer. It says, okay, here's an extra billion for the day. No, they did it by way of these humanitarian projects by the countries. So then the money would then flow into the bank accounts so that it could then pay out for the labor and everything else. That flow of cash into the economy of those local environments, because they build all these humanitarian projects. They now had that money flowing into the world. And guess what? It would have worked beautifully if they actually did it. But they didn't. Right. They didn't create this value by creating the project.
Right? Yeah, this is where the concept of trading futures, right? So like oil futures,
mm-hmm.
You have to mine the oil and actually sell it, at some point.
Yeah. So it's something that was that could have worked, but they were greedy and they only gave the deals to certain ones. Not all the projects ever got, like you said, projects never really got the money. They got their little bit of seed money to get started, to say they started the project, but it never has that flow of money because that money was being siphoned off. They were taking it and using it for themselves. Yeah, the country doing that. So you have all these dictators around the world that were there that were decided, humanitarian project. Yeah, they're going to take all the money and they're going to live on it, right? And they're going to basically look how much I've got in my Swiss bank account. How big is yours? Mine is this big. And,
and all they would give the humanitarian projects is what I call website and T-shirt money, right? So they give you enough money to have a website, a T-shirt, pay a month's salary for people. Now you got a whole bunch of people wearing T-shirts, and you got a great website about all the stuff you're about to do, and the projects never get done. They never get done because that's phase one funding. There's a phase two. You know, we have 14 phases to create change, right? And if we were to look at that, and I if I make every move counting on the next phase of funding, which is what I should do, right? Because I should spend the money. Because by spending the money, I put the money out into the economy, right? But if I hold back because I don't believe it's going to happen, that's where the problem comes in, right? But what really comes in as a problem is because phase two never comes.
Right.
Right. Now that's what they would do. Now, how do you avoid that? Well, the way you avoid that is what Kim has done. You have to completely revamp the banking system. You have to isolate everyone with that mentality and cut them out of it completely, because they will always seek to hoard things away. You ever see those shows with like somebody who's a hoarder, right? And they keep everything. They don't want to throw anything away.
Sure. I've been
And
in houses like that.
Wow, really? Okay. So
And
that to me,
especially one of the guys, brilliant guy, JPL engineer, right? Never threw away a newspaper.
wow.
Stacks of newspapers. You to walk through the house, you literally had to turn sideways and shimmy through these floor to ceiling stacks of newspapers. Great library.
Yeah, I mean, it's
it's hoarding.
I do like newspapers, but it's not that much, Yeah. So I mean that was the system. I think that stuff is really important to look at and realize. What the more we see that that's what's been done, the easier it becomes to create a new system, right? Where we don't do that, right? Like we don't have to do things that way. And I think that's the idea behind human empowerment, right? Is that we're empowering people to go and make decisions and create better ways, and you know not be afraid. Everyone's afraid, so they file a patent, right? And they think they're protected by the patent, but in reality, that's why you have 6,000 patents right now that are undeveloped, right? And have never come to market. They're completely revolutionary, would change the markets in all of these industries. And the reason why is they don't want you to disrupt the market. When you disrupt the market, it cuts off one of their key players, supply chain. So they want to make sure they buy that up first.
Yeah. Do you know that there's no patent on the formula for Coca-Cola?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a secret.
Oh, it's just a secret. Wow, that's genius.
Yeah, so that means it can't be stolen.
Yeah.
So
well,
you use a combination of patents and secrets. So these are things. The secrets are really the core stuff that really is truly the magic. The patents you use as a framework to protect the secret, but it gives you the legal standing to challenge people so that they're not able to, steal away your business.
Yep. Now, I believe in the opposite of that. Even the Speed Project right now, Paul, my lawyer, wanted us to copyright it because he wanted people to. He didn't want anyone to pervert it, right? To take it and add their 2 cents or whatever. So you can't even cut and paste it. Now, I'd rather change that. I'd rather people just be able to cut and paste it, because what I want is the message to get out. I'm not worried about, we don't advertise or sell products or anything or ask for donations. So that's not the point. The point is to get it out to as many places as possible.
Right.
And
you never listen to attorneys about these
things. He's not an attorney though. He's denounced the bar a long time ago. Yeah.
Sorry.
He's a freedom fighter. He's one of us.
It's the language. Sometimes you forget. The intent behind is not always the same. So yeah, I didn't want to slander him. So forgive me.
No, I know you didn't. No, but I'm just saying But oh, by the way, let me put this out there as a public service announcement too. One of the very first things that we will do immediately, um, is we have a team now, but we're going to expand this team of what we call the Hawks. And so anybody out there who is a legal expert, right, but maybe they're not technically a lawyer, um, we'll be glad to bring you on board that team of Hawks, right? Because a lot of the people with the most extensive knowledge about common law and natural law and um,
Yeah.
all those different and how to work the system, right? They you know they're not legally or not legally they're not bar associated lawyers, right? So we don't unless you want to disassociate from the bar, which I'm for those guys too. These big corporate lawyers who know how to work the system, we'll be glad to hire some of you too. And but I'm just saying, anybody out there who wants to change the world, hit me up, stephenrowe@gmail.com, STEFFENROWE. You know, my belief is that to maintain our sovereignty, we have to be actively looking for things that would potentially cause problems versus waiting for them to dupe us and then try to fight it, the lawsuit or something silly like that. We have to take action that is constantly um, protective, and I don't want to worry about it all the time. So I'd much rather just hire people who let them do it, you know, who are experts in that stuff.
Yeah.
Just side note. Sorry. Want
No,
to make
it's
sure I
all
told
right.
people.
No, when we started here, I will go ahead and bring in a group of half a dozen to add to that hawks, legal
Yep.
hawks, because these people have been already doing this, understand the system, will walk in not as an attorney, but as a lawyer to argue cases for people, and they win, and they win,
Yep.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And they, even if they're challenged about, hey, you're not a member of the bar, you can't be here. Yes, I can.
Yes, I can.
Yeah,
That's
I
right.
can.
That's right.
Yeah, so then they get schooled.
Well, it's at the end of the day, just as many of those people, by the way, get beat up too, because you know what? It does not matter if you know the law better if the courts and the accepted norm is not to enforce the law, right? So that's why I'm so encouraged right now. What I'm seeing with the head of the Secret Service stepping down or being fired, right? But they're saying he's stepping down because they're giving them a diplomatic way to walk out, right? It's like
So
you walk out or you're
I
leaving.
thought I thought he was the one that made the deal.
Well, I'm no, Kim didn't say that, so I don't. If I tied that together, I didn't mean to. What I was
Oh,
trying to say is it's evidence though, right? Because she said she came to terms with the
yes.
Secret Service, and then all of a sudden the head of the Secret Service is stepping down. Well, those things are not coincidence, they are coincidence, right? They're in exact agreement with one another,
Yeah, I
but
think the word is synchronicity.
yeah, they're definitely synchronized, right? And when the Secretary of Homeland Security steps down, and one of the big issues we've had is, you know, we're even though the Manna World Holding Trust has a perfect OFAC report, you know, they'll deny it. I got an email the other day from someone uh, who one of the gentlemen, one of the creators network members, and he was uh, he was sharing with me an email, and this individual was adamant, saying, you know, Kim was a bad person and all these things that he was making claims like I've worked with her, I know who she is. Now, no, she's not a bad person, and there's a history there that I won't share, but I can tell you that it's not her. you but he said that she uses a Homeland Security number that isn't even belongs to someone else. Well, who's it belong to? Who does it belong to? Right? That was something else. I worked with a CIA agent who was trying to help us. Then he turned his back on us and tried to sabotage us. And he was always, he would, no matter what we did, we should have known right away he was going to turn on us, because he would always say, like, you'll never be able to beat them. He was always scared, right? So fear is always the problem, right? If you're afraid of them, you're in a constant state of making bad decisions because you're basing everything you do on fear. And
Right.
And he would basically say that they'll never let you bring the money in. So I remember when we brought the money in, to the country, right? And it was a big deal because they had to have FBI agents bust into the I'm sorry, they weren't FBI agents. They were mercenaries posing as FBI agents, and they busted into they showed their fake badges, and they busted into the wire transfer room, and they redirected the funds. And actually, someone contacted me about this the other day, how the COMEX is falsifying the precious metal prices, right, to steal from the people in Europe. And that was the company that they redirected the money to, COMEX. Just FYI.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's always this, the fear that's out there, right? It's at this point, it's all about this exact. I use this. I heard a preacher use this example years ago. How if I'm standing up and I force all of you to bow, I look like I'm the tallest, most powerful individual in the room because you're all bowing. And all it takes to take my power away is for you to stand up. Now, when you stand up, you're looking at me face to face in the eye, and you realize I'm not so big, right? I'm just average, right? Now, you might be average too, but you certainly have no reason to bow to anyone.
Well, it feels good to stand up.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, but this individual, one of the things he was talking about is, like I said, like with Kim, that she didn't have ownership of these codes. Well, who else has come out and said that they'll do a head-to-head challenge with anybody, anytime, any place that has a real terminal, and they can both put their codes in, right? They can both put their codes in, and when they both put their codes in, whoever brings down the money is the winner. And Kim said, I will, every single time. She said she'll go head to head against anybody. You can't even find somebody else to do that. Nobody else will do that because that's why that challenge has never been accepted. So if they have so much evidence, so much proof, why not prove it? Show all the tough guys out there who claim that she's volatile, and she's not the one. And if there is one out there, right, who is the one, right, the real one, what are they doing? Why aren't they bringing the money down? That's Ellis Power. See, we're telling you why we can't bring the money down. We're open about it. We're sharing it. We're sharing the issue so it becomes everybody's, because it is everybody's problem. We're making it everybody's concern, right? We're making it public knowledge to everybody because it affects everybody. So everybody, and that doesn't mean that everybody's going to be able to do something, but hopefully, well, not hopefully, I know for a fact that we'll wear them down over time. But it's done at this point. I'd say over time, you're seeing evidence right now. This is my conclusion. I know Kim's still programming to get this past the teller, but I mean, imagine there was a time we didn't even know getting money was a real possibility, and now it's at the teller level. That means there's just you and a computer screen away from this being yours. From your project that you've been working on, your technology, your invention, your dream, your idea. All those things coming to life. That's how close it is. That's how close it is.
Well, amazing. Let's get there. All right. We're past 2 hours. Do you wanna cap it here?
Yeah, we'll cap it off. I appreciate you doing the call as always, and appreciate everybody who stayed with us and listened. And I
And please,
expect great news.
yeah, and please share this. Bring it to everybody you know. have everybody, give positive comments, talk about what we're doing, get involved, take the effort. And even if you've already talked to people about it before, ask them if they've seen this. Please subscribe, give likes, give shares. And on that, contact us if you want to get involved, and we'll go from there. And we'll talk soon. See you tomorrow.
That's right. Peace out from New York.